Welcome to the Embodiment Conference. This channel, Trauma and Social Change, it's absolutely the moment for that, isn't it? I'm Steve Hoskinson. I'm the founder of Organic Intelligence. I've been teaching in this area of trauma, embodiment, and social change for about 25 years. It's an honor, really, for us to be sponsoring this channel where we're going to hear a multiplicity of voice, all unique contributors to our collective understanding of how to move from trauma and support then social change. Our unique voice in organic intelligence has something to do with a koan that I'd like to present to you, which is trauma means unintegrated resource. And that's a koan, and if you'd like and are feeling intrigued about that riddle, then tune in to the post-trauma system development course that we're offering here. The coupon code that'll get you half off on that is ENJOY. Now, enjoy this next presentation, and we'll look forward to another meaningful time as we explore these topics, trauma and social change. Enjoy.
Today's session is called Embodiment Through Healing Trauma at the Causal, returning to our full potential and share the gift that we are in the world. This is brought to us by the amazing Leanora. Leanora founded Embodied Truth in 2012 to support an integral approach to awakening and embodiment. You can find interviews with her at Buddha and the Gas Pump and many other sources. We encourage you to go to her website, but we are very, very privileged to have her with us right now. Thank you so much for being here, Leanora.
Thank you. Thank you to the Embodiment Conference for this beautiful platform and opportunity for all of us to share. And thank you for Steve's promotion. I really relate deeply to this unintegrated resource that he talked about, which trauma is. I'd like to begin by just inviting everybody to connect with your felt sense and just take a few breaths. This will help me as well. So just inviting you to maybe close your eyes and breathe yourself into yourself. And just feel the presence, the inner presence of your own field, whether that feels soft and easeful or noisy. Just allow and accept how it is. And just use the focus on the breath to kind of land home in this container of you. This is an opportunity for self-referencing what's happening for you as we journey together here. So I can already feel a shift energetically, and what I feel is really important in these kinds of explorations is that you don't leave yourself out by just hearing me and hearing the words at the mental level, where they travel into and through a filter of everything you already know. So we're moving more into this connection with this toroidal field, the human energy field, which is us, which contains all the subconscious and unconscious information about what's real for us in this very moment. And so I want to invite you to hear me and join me in this connection throughout this journey that we're on together, as a way of listening more deeply to what resonates in your own field. So from here, I invite you, if you have your eyes closed, to see if you can open them without leaving yourself, as if you're opening your eyes and letting the world into you, and letting your light shine out into the world. Great, I feel better. I hope you do too. I want to share a little bit about my own journey for those who don't know me, because it gives such an important and valuable context to what I talk about and what feels real and important to me. About 30 years ago, I had an awakening experience, and I had within that experience this small voice that whispered to me to go and live a simple life close to nature and share it with someone. And I had not heard that voice before, and it didn't really make sense in the context of the high stress, high pressured life that I was living in, what I call the rat race. And I was compelled to hear that voice, and it changed my life, and it became a touchstone for my journey. And one of the things that I learned from that voice was I had this direct connection in that experience with a field of awareness that felt undivided. It felt like being home. It felt like me. And of course it brought up, well, if that's me, who's the other one that kind of seems to run my life? And that set me on a quest that I'm kind of still on. And the quest is really to know myself and to be myself and to be the unique expression of that undivided field. You could call that field divinity or the absolute. So after that, rather than, you know, people often think of awakening as like, I've awakened, as if I'm done now. I can assure you it is not true. There is no done. So after that experience, the touchstone of the absolute, or this field, undivided field of awareness that felt like home, illuminated very strongly what wasn't me. It illuminated all the noise and dysfunction in my system. And I went through a window of about a dozen or so years of being ill. And quite seriously, you know, I had post-traumatic stress disorder and chronic fatigue and allergies and neuralgia. And, you know, there was a long list. And during that time, I learned to find the inner resource because the outer resources were not able to support me. And I kept getting guided to remain in myself and to use my inner resource. Now, I didn't feel very resourced within myself, so I kept reaching out. And every time I reached out, things didn't really work. And every time I reached in, I got better results. So it was a great learning. And some years on, about 12 or so years ago, I felt called to share this work. And, you know, it's felt like I'd been on that sort of classic wounded healer journey. And it felt very important to my own journey to share, you know, the gifts that I'd been given. And what I wanted to say, one of the key things that I learned there is that every gift that we have, which we all have, a unique gift, comes with a series of challenges. And this is that unresolved resource that Stephen was speaking about in his video. Anyway, in 2012, I opened up the channel or the portal of Embodied Truth as a way of sharing and offering others guidance and support. In 2017, not so long ago, I was called again by spirit, or by this inner intelligence, to stop everything that I was doing and to give up basically any notion of healing or teaching or any identification, any attachments, any agenda, any position, basically, because I was in a particular dynamic of failing health. And so in 2017, I kind of moved out of the noise of my life again and moved inwards for a deep exploration and embodiment of the state of consciousness, which I call the I am, or the absolute. So this is a process of, you know, the first part of my journey was this sort of process of, you know, going up to God and finding God. And the second part of the journey was the descending path of bringing that state of consciousness into the body. And it isn't that you do one path and then the next, that in some way you're doing both paths at the same time. So the focus on bringing the light and the divinity or the absolute into the body is about healing the flesh and healing the memories and the deeper, denser content that was given to us by our ancestors and collective trauma. So bringing that light into embodiment is a very challenging path. And I'd love to feel that I'm at the end of it, but like I said, there is really no end to that path, and I'm still in it. In fact, healing at the causal layer is about healing as life, or living your healing. There is no end point. It's about every moment is different. So the gift of life is this presence, and the embodiment of this presence of stillness. So I want to invite you to come on a little journey with me into the deepest core of your heart. I'd like to invite you to have an experience before I share with you in words some of the key points about healing at the causal layer. And I want to go on this journey beyond the noise of the mind and its division, its beliefs, its ideas, its notions. And I want to invite you again, you can close your eyes if it feels more resourceful for you, to strengthen and enter this vibration, your bubble, as I call it, the field of awareness. It's a three-dimensional bubble. It can be any size. It can be right close to your body, or it could be as big as your room. Whatever feels natural is you. Just the invitation is to feel you. And I want to invite you to just take a few long out breaths. Make your out breath longer, and invite that to bring you into relaxation. And as you feel into your field, I invite you to ground into it. It's like you're making an internet connection with your soul. You can't just go and look and then disconnect, because that disables the connection. You have to feel and remain within everything that you feel. And I call that grounding into your roots, grounding into your bubble. You may have things in your bubble that are kind of waving at you loudly. It may be noisy, maybe lots of distractions, or it may just be calm. Whatever it is, just allow. Rather than dancing from one part of your bubble to another part of your bubble, I want to invite you to feel your whole field of awareness, your whole bubble, as one experience. And inhabit this bubble, inhabit your field, the whole field. Make sure that you're in the back of your body, and even behind the back of your body, to the edge of your bubble. Notice that the edge of your bubble may not be a hard edge, but more of a sort of diffuse edge with a different vibe. Notice that you can be in the back of your bubble, and without leaving the back, also expand forward into the front of your bubble. Just fill yourself up with you. And as you're connecting with this is your sacred connection to your soul, as you're making contact with yourself, capital S, self. It's like you're in a temple. And I want to invite you just into an attitude of lovingness, friendliness, that every part of you is welcome to be here without judgment, without needing it to be different. Every part of you needs to be greeted in a friendly way. Welcome it. Allow it to join us. And I want to invite you generally to claim yourself, to claim your life, to claim the gift that you are, to claim the timelines that have shaped you. In other words, claim your past. And this sense of ownership of this field is an ownership of your life. This is your gift. And it holds that essence of you, as well as the challenges and lessons that we chose to come and learn. Rather than dividing by what you want and what you don't want, just have it all. And I want to invite you to put one hand on your heart center and the other hand on your belly. And just breathe and feel the felt sense of the weight and warmth of your hands touching your body as a sort of anchoring into a feeling of substance and connection with yourself. And I want to invite you to move your awareness to the hand on your heart and the felt sense of the connection point where the hand meets the heart space. Just feel that connection point. And on your next in-breath, feel the breath arrive in that connection with your hand and your heart. And let yourself remain in this place, in your heart space. Move your awareness a little deeper into the very center of your being. And stabilize your connection there. Land in your heart. And kind of say to yourself, I'm here for me. Really be sincere and mean it. Notice the felt sense of your response. Notice what happens in your system when that happens. Notice your direct experience of this place. How the soul communicates with us is through resonance, through vibration. And I want to share with you that whatever happens when you connect with your heart is either the gift or the challenge. Like sometimes we have wounds that make it challenging to find our heart space. And the way to the heart is to love the wounds, is to, through loving, through connection, through allowing and acceptance, the wounds transfigure and transform. And I want you to feel yourself, if it's available to you, as if you're sitting on the point of a triangle in your heart center. And on that point is the light of your soul. And as you reach in, your soul reaches out and you connect. And from here, you are the center of the universe. You are a singularity. You are one. You are one with all, and you're a unique expression of all. You're in a dynamic feedback, feed-forward loop between your inner experience and the epigenetic of what's happening in your constellation, in your world, in your life. So any kind of noise in the system is actually a doorway that's calling you to explore, to release yourself from the division and the shadows, which have written coping strategies and programs in your life. So I enjoyed that journey with you and feeling the light and vibration of the group soul of the people that are here today, sharing their light. That is the gift that you are. You have a unique expression of that gift to share your light in the world. And in order to share your light, we have to use the light, which it naturally does, illuminates the shadows. And what often happens when the shadows are illuminated is we get sucked out of the light and we get identified with the story and the shadows that go with the story. And the path is incredibly simple. It's to really remain grounded in your true self, in your sovereignty, and meet the shadow directly. And that's a practice. You know, it's a practice that is an exponential kind of learning. The more you clear shadows out of your field, out of your system, your body-mind system, the easier it is to be yourself and shine your light. And it's a living practice. So I want to invite you to share, perhaps in a comment, what your experience was, or any questions that came from your journey in how you journeyed on that meditation. So this really is the topic today, is this healing at the causal level. Now, I've written a kind of, for those that are really interested in a more full description than can be given here in this short time, I've written an article and it's available on my website, and the post, the link to that is available somewhere in the comments, and Leela will share about that. But just in general, I wanted to share about the difference between healing at the causal level and healing in a dualistic way. Most of us are familiar with dualistic healing, though we might not call it that. And the challenge with dualistic healing is that it is subject-object. It's like, I have a problem, I am sick, you know, my tummy hurts, you know, there's me and something. And within the I and the experience or the illness that requires healing, there's a separation and there's a relationship. And the relationship with what's wrong with me is I want to fix it. That's a general kind of relationship. And in that kind of relationship, we may not have the knowledge and understanding to, quote, fix it. And so we may seek expert advice. And the expert may have a lot of training, but that training and that knowledge is not alive, it's not dynamic. Rather, it's, you know, what you learned and got a credential for. And so the mind of the expert is being limited by what he knows, and the mind of the client or the patient is also limited. What is being left out is what is subconscious. So dualistic healing, you know, is also a lack of sovereignty. It's a lack, it excludes consciousness. It excludes this deeper knowledge of the causes of what is arising in our experience in this moment. Whatever experience you have has a cause beyond what you know. You know, so if you learn all about what's wrong with you, you will become more attached to owning what's wrong with you. So like sometimes people go to an expert and they're given a label and they're told you have, you know, X, Y, Z. And now there's kind of a relief that we have a label and we know something about it, and there's a whole series of treatment protocols. But we're also taking on the notion, we're also taking on energetically the disease by saying, I have X, Y, Z. And this ends up kind of limiting the possibility for healing. The focus is often shifting symptoms, but it is not dealing with the cause or the origin of this trauma or this dynamic that's expressing in you. So healing at the causal level is about returning to yourself. What I found, you know, over many years of kind of failing and doing it wrong is the courage and ability to pick myself up and keep going, for one thing. But I found that I reached the limits of what my mind could support me with. And that I actually had to give up trying to understand and know, you know, what the solutions were to my challenges in life and my physicality problems and so on. And I had to enter into a kind of a humbleness of not knowing. And it's really within the mystery of who I am and who we are that there's an alchemy that's available, that the blueprint of the divine human, the blueprint of you before you were wounded, is available to you right now, right here, within the field of awareness. And this really shifted how I worked, because before that I was like, okay, I can do trauma healing. I've studied all these things. I've learned huge amounts. I could write an encyclopedia on it. But my healing was arrested at a level of needing to fix. The engagement with healing myself was coming from a non-loving place. It was coming from a fear of needing to fix so that I'd be okay. I think most people can relate to that. So, you know, as my skills improved, I was able to enter the field in a new way of humbleness and a willingness to learn, to be shown the way by my heart. So there's many elements in that journey. It's been 30 years of explorations of the sacred journey with the heart. But there's kind of something that encapsulates that journey in two words. And one is inclusivity, and the other one is intent. That the mind tends to exclude what it doesn't want. It tends to be in avoidance. It tends to be blind to the subconscious and unconscious information that is available to us. It tends to be highly triggered and highly reactive to what it doesn't want. And the path that is required is an inclusivity, which you can think of as unconditional love, is a willingness to meet every part of yourself and allow it and accept it fully. And the intention is the curiosity to return home to myself. Is that through the shadows, through the field of awareness, that I can reach the origin of all trauma. And this is what I learned. I learned it by doing it wrong. I learned eventually that the root and the cause of all trauma was leaving myself, is leaving the deeper truth of who I am. Now, if you cycle back through my awakening experience, I was shown in that experience the truth of who I am. So it was in my awareness, and it was a guide, and it illuminated all the material that was required to move me from a position and relationship with myself that wasn't loving to a position of returning home into that singularity in my heart of me, and allowing and including whatever was arising in the dynamism of a present moment. So inclusivity, as we did our meditation, is that ownership of your life and all your timelines, all the things that happen to you that are creating shadows in your field where you disconnected from overwhelm, trauma, and it's meeting them. So what's in your field, as you fine-tune your skills of presencing to yourself, the roots of that contain personal information of things that happened to you, things that happened in your birth, things that happened at conception, things that happened to your ancestors, things that are happening to humanity, that all of these things are shaping us in this present moment. So everything we need to resolve is here with us right now. At the same time, that initiation and ignition of the light of your soul is kind of like an end point, in that it provides you with the resource right now. It's always here right now. Even if you can't find it, it's here. The resource of yourself, your true self, your light, your uniqueness, and the one self. I'm the whole universe self. So it's really those kind of opposites that resolve themselves in an alchemy through just presencing into the field. And the inclusivity is really this kind of statement of owning your life and the willingness to own your life and your journey as a way of living your practice. And the curiosity is this age-old spiritual quest to know who I am and why I'm here. So one of the big, huge, profound stumbling blocks is that the one who is wounded is the one who is looking through your eyes. And the wounded one is entangled with the wound. In science, that's called the observer effect. So after many years of doing kind of basic trauma healing, feeling, sensing, allowing, meeting experiences, and even reaching the still point, the origin of those experiences, I started to realize that there was a blindness, even though I had by then evolved into sort of a super conscious awareness. At the same time, that there was a blindness, that there was information in my physicality that I couldn't access. And I became curious about this observer and what she sees and how she's related to the experiences that she's having. So what I found in my eyes, I was actually trying to heal my eyesight, and so I sort of found it by accident. But what I found in my eyes was tension and hypervigilance, that when I went to explore any sensation in my body, that something in my eyes moved toward that exploration, that there was a division between me, the wound, and the wounded one. So what happens when you're traumatized is your nervous system gets overwhelmed. You either get a shock, you get overwhelmed, and you can't stay connected to what's in the body. You can't integrate or metabolize, the fear or whatever the experience is. And as a result, your awareness can leave. That's called soul loss or dissociation. And when it leaves, it sort of freezes into a position and a relationship with the experience in the body. The experience in the body becomes subconscious or unconscious. And the sense of self maintains a separation from that experience. It doesn't want to go there. It's like a survival piece. And it's that separation between the sense of self and the experience that then becomes the object of interest for integration and unification back to a singularity, back to your true self. So the exploration of the observer is literally, and I want you to invite you to try this with me right now, is to feel your head. You can put your hands on your ears if it helps, and feel the contents of the sandwich between your hands, the contents of your head. Feel it as a vibration. Within that vibration, unless you're outside your body, which can be true for some people, is where your observer lives, within there, and somewhere potentially around your eyes, though it can be in many places. But it is the exploration at the energetic level of the observer that enables the integration of that observer and the identities that we became in that split of separation. So when there's a split, when I leave myself and I separate from the contents of my experience, that sense of self is kind of frozen in that past moment when I had that experience. And what we're wanting to do is to metabolize the contents of the experience in the body, in the soma, but we're also wanting to integrate the sense of self. It's the sense of self that is maintaining separation and creating duality, and is in the way, kind of that full healing at the causal level. So the nub of that point is that there's a single cause of all trauma, and that is the leaving of yourself. It's not your fault that you left, but it's your responsibility to come home, to learn your lessons, to become your true self. So I'd like to invite you into another short connection with your field of awareness. Just taking a few breaths. Noticing the vibration of your bubble. Owning your bubble. This is me. Allowing whatever's in your field to be with you. It needs to be here. It's waiting for you. Move your awareness to your heart space. You can use your hand and your breath to bring you into that connection with the center of you, the center of the universe, the gift. If you're touching that light of your soul, let it radiate. If the light's not there right now, just allow, fully accept and allow the messenger, the protector, the guardian of your love, of your heart. Let him or her join us. All parts of you are welcome here. All parts of you are necessary for this journey. Feeling that felt sense, the vibration, the wholeness of you, inclusivity. I want to invite you to notice the stillness that's already here. You don't need to go looking with your eyes. Rather, just sense into just the intent. Let stillness reveal itself to you. It's here. It's a deep, dark, blue, empty silence. It's like the space between the stars. It's a void, empty of noise. It's infinite and filled with possibility. Ground in to that stillness, as if you're sinking down through the ocean with a weight belt on. Just feel yourself like a scuba diver, just grounding in, seeping into the roots of that stillness. When we're all in this place together, we're one. Undivided, infinite soul. For me, one of the key guides in my work is stillness. Stillness is the endpoint of healing, and it's the birthplace of you. The single cause of all trauma is the leaving from this place, and the distraction of the shadows versus the ability to maintain connection with the light. I found generally that people have three fears. They're afraid of the light because it illuminates the shadow, and they're afraid of the shadow, and they're afraid of death. And stillness is the death of the ego, the transfiguration and transmutation of the material that is maintaining separation between you and yourself. And this field contains stillness. I often say to people when I guide them, and we're looking at challenging material in the field, we introduce stillness. It's like giving it to God. It's like letting the wound and the wounded one meet its origin. And the power and the alchemy of transformation is within the trinity of that connection between those three elements. The wound, that's the experience in the soma. The wounded one who lives in your observer. And God, stillness, absolute, fundamental reality, always there, never changing. So there's so much more I'd love to share with you, but I feel kind of that's a good place to kind of end, or at least open up for questions. Leela, can't hear you.
We have a few questions. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. First, I want to invite any of the panelists that want to, if they would like to articulate their question. Also, I'll go to the questions in the Q&A. If you do have one and you're in the panel, you can unmute yourself and ask it yourself. And I am going to begin with, can you elaborate on the shadow? Is this the shadow self or experiences?
The shadow is both those, because there is an entanglement between the wounded one who's maintaining separation from his shadow, his or her shadow. The shadow is the direct experience of felt sense information, can feel like a density or a pain, yeah, or a heat, or any kind of thing within the felt sense. The key thing about the shadow is the shadow likes to hide. So if you're lucky enough to find it, most people are avoiding their shadows, but if you're lucky enough to find it, you can transform it. But the observer, the wounded one, yeah, is hell-bent on you not finding it. So until you find the wounded one, this is the observer effect, who's kind of looking through a filter. So for example, the wounded one had a bad experience and she has an unconscious fear inside her. And as a result, she sees danger in all sorts of places. Like there's no tiger out there, there's nothing actually happening. But through the projection of the unresolved fear and material, which is unconscious, she is looking through that fear and looking out in the world and projecting something into the world and then reacting to it. That person's dangerous. Now, they may or may not be dangerous, but she's not in touch with her instinctual power. She's operating from the wounded one who's kind of doesn't know how to resolve that and is trying to resolve it by avoiding dangerous people and by kind of making life smaller and limiting oneself. So I hope that answers the question.
Well, and it also leads perfectly into the next question, which is, when being in your field is frightening and you want to flee, how do you come back to yourself? How do you?
Yeah, so, that's actually a different answer for every single person, but it's just firstly the intent to meet that fear may take you somewhere, it may take you in a long, take you on a journey. So, fear is entangled with an avoidance of fear. Again, it's entangled with the wounded one who doesn't want to feel afraid. The fear is not being accepted and loved. So, in the field of awareness, the fear has its unique signature. It has a vibration. So I recovered from PTSD, and this is many, many years ago, and I just lived as if I was a panic attack. So I can empathize with the challenge of that. And if you can meet fear and invite fear, the felt sense of fear, to meet God, to meet stillness, a transformation happens. Now, sometimes it's just so hard, because the whole system's got cortisol and adrenaline and, so on happening. And I found that using the breath and slowing the breath down and increasing the length of the out breath is the most efficient way to allow the support of the body-mind system to find a kind of relaxation or connection or homeostasis. So, you've got to breathe. And if you can't do that even, then really you need to put your hand up and get support from somebody who can hold you and guide you through that kind of an experience.
Oh gosh, we have so many really good questions, and I'm sorry that we can't come to all of them. There are two, well, the one's been upvoted, so I'll do that. And this is, and I think this is, you're uniquely suited to answer it. Can you say anything about increased energetic sensitivity as a result of spiritual awakening, and how to work with that in a safe and integrated way without becoming overwhelmed or exhausted by it?
Wow, what a great question. I have been through that journey myself. I'm Mrs. Super Sensitive. And, you know, sensitivity comes in part if we're reacting to it, that creates the overwhelm. So, you know, sensitivity is a profound gift. And learning to integrate and hold that gift is exactly what we've been doing today. Is about establishing connection with it in that container, you know, so being grounded in the kind of holographic field, this toroidal field of you, is what transforms the gift and gives you mastery over it. Yeah. So sometimes when we're endeavoring to transform the gift, it's like it's just too much. We're feeling so many things. Yeah, we're like empathically aware, we're affected by, you know, the wind and the rain and everybody's presence. And, you know, it's a process of discernment, you know, of the reactivity to anything external, perceived external to us. And it's cultivating this strength of having this container, if you will. Container is not the right word, but just to give you a sense of ownership of your field. And the ability to remain grounded and connected in that, stillness helping it, enables the transmutation of the reactivity that you have with sensitivity. So, you know, it's really this sort of, that grounding into the wholeness of you is an expanded state of consciousness that takes you away from the little self that's engaged with all the little parts and doesn't want them. It's kind of putting you in touch with this bigger self. So when you're in touch with that wholeness of you, the system naturally self-regulates. When it's not self-regulating, it's because you split. You know, it's like I'm not one with myself anymore. It's like I've split into a wounded self who's in reaction to something in my field. And it's really, you know, working with that enables the mastery of that kind of sensitivity.
Well, you have done such an amazing job of embodying that and demonstrating it both with your presence and your words and with the sensitivity with which you've responded to everyone. So I just really want to thank you. This has been a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much.
If there's a moment, I'd love to share, you know, kind of like a what are we doing here kind of thing, you know.
Well, I'm happy to give you one of my moments. Go for it.
Okay, so I just want to say that for me, this process personally has been what in Christianity you would call the resurrection. You know, it's the coming of the second coming of Christ, or the embodiment of the light within the body. Is a whole new consciousness as we move from the Piscean age of duality into the Aquarian age of this singularity. We're creating a whole new human that doesn't exclude consciousness. And in some way, what's happening in the world today collectively, it's a collective trauma, we're all in it together, is this journey. As we journey through this field, we're actually unmasking the power that got lost, that emotional energy that's hidden within the fear and the anger. When I say unmasking, I'm making a pun because we're all being told to wear masks. And the task is really to unmask so that we can reclaim our sovereignty and become ourselves and co-create creatively, dynamically in the moment, the world that we really came to be in. And, you know, all of us, every single one of us has chosen to be here at this time. So every single one of us is part of that journey and that process. And I just feel so blessed to share it here with you all. Thank you.
very blessed to receive it as well. And thank you for your work and inviting everyone to step up in this way and do such a fantastic job. I'm going to remind everybody that this is free for 48 hours, and that if you want to own it and unpack it, there's a lot here to unpack. That meditation alone is worth the cost of the library. I want to encourage you to look at that, because that's going to allow us to revisit it and digest it in our own time. There's so much wisdom in this 1,000 presentation summit. And what the summit volunteers have done, or the summit creators have done, have put together learning lists in each category that also allow you to go through different aspects, different techniques, different meditations in your own time. There's learning lists, there's notes, there's audio only. They've really done a lot. And if you are in that position to do it, it is also what enables the presenters and the organizers to put on this amazing conference worldwide for free, accessible to everyone, to come together in this way that Leanora has invited us, and that the world is inviting us. So that is a thanks. Up next in the Trauma and Social Change channel, we have Joelle Simone Anthony with an open conversation about death and grieving with the grave woman. There is such depth here. It is phenomenal. I have just 1/2 of a minute to ask Leanora the final question we're asking of all of our presenters. What is your top tip on how to be more embodied?
Commit to your own life.
Ooh, wonderful. Thank you. And thank everyone for being here. This has been truly beautiful. Leanora, I hope to have the privilege of seeing you again, and each and every one have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.